In this episode, we're going to be discussing the...
What are you doing?
Nothing.
Are you a boom operator?
Yeah.
Have you no self-respect?
Huh?
The microphone's in the frame. It's scooping from below. I mean, I don't even know words. I don't know words for this.
Yeah.
That was Alan, also known as Soundspeeds. He is a professional microphone boom operator in the film and television business. He's based in Atlanta, where a lot of shows are filmed these days. And he knows a lot about boom poles. He holds one for 8+ hours every day. He has long extolled to me the beauty of ambient boom poles. Up until this point, I'm more of a sometimes location sound mixer, and I have been using for many years now K-Tek Avalon graphite boom poles. And so I was very curious. So this is to satisfy my curiosity and hopefully yours too. What makes ambient quick pole slim boom poles special? Well, there are a few things. Number one, first of all, it's a 4-section pole. So there are 3 locks on it. And that means there are fewer sections, 4 sections. And that makes it a little easier to get to your full length. This is actually a 155 centimeters when it's collapsed, 518 centimeters at its full length. That's approximately 17 feet at its full length. And it's made of a custom carbon fiber formulation made by Ambient with, they say, UHM fiber layering. I don't know exactly what that means. What I can say is it feels absolutely fantastic and is incredibly stiff. That's one of the biggest things I've noticed between the ambient pole and the graphite K-Tek poles is the graphite K-Tek poles with the weight of a microphone, especially when you have the pole largely extended, there is a definite bow to it. You can definitely see it. And when you move it, you feel a little bit of flex, actually quite a bit of flex sometimes in those poles. It's just part of the design. The graphite it just flexes some. And that's fine, but this one seems much more responsive, which I really quite like. Now, these are not cheap, and that's why I titled this video, Why Do Pros Use Boom Poles Like This? And this is not me trying to convince you to go out and spend this money. The long pole, the one I have here, is $850 US, and the short version is $660 US. Now, for someone who is operating professionally, that makes sense. They're holding these poles 8 to 12 hours a day often, and that completely makes sense. So what I want to kind of run through here is some of the highlights here, and especially in relation to my experience with the K-Tek Avalon poles. So first of all, fewer segments. So my K-Tek poles both have 5 segments and 4 locks. This one has 4 sections and 3 locks. And it's also smaller diameter, so it's smaller around. And that actually is quite comfortable, more comfortable than I expected. It also makes it so you can make it lighter, fewer sections, smaller diameter, stiffer material, so it's very responsive, but it's still extraordinarily light. And specifically, the long version here comes in at, I believe, right under 30 ounces. So that's less than 2 pounds for this entire pole that is up to 17 feet long. Quite extraordinary. And you can look up, we'll put a link and you can go look at all the details on how much it weighs and how long it is and so on and so forth. The fewer sections also means less flex. So it's also stiffer because it has fewer sections, the 3 locks and 4 sections, which also makes it, again, extraordinarily responsive when you're cueing back and forth between actors very quickly. Having something that's very responsive instead of kind of swaying as you move it back and forth, as you cue it back and forth, is actually quite exciting, quite interesting. And one thing I should also mention nowadays, this is not an internally cabled pole by its default. You can't actually put a straight cable through it. You get a different end for it, and you can put a straight cable through it. A lot of times, of course, the professional operators these days are using a wireless kit on the end. And so you have a little bit more weight with that transmitter pack over on the end near the microphone. And so having a stiffer pole also makes a substantial difference there. So that's another feature worth considering. The locks on the ambient poles are divine. They're actually just really nice to work with. A quarter turn is all you need to do to loosen it. Very smooth action is what I've noticed here. The lubrication is really quite nice. So they're using Teflon as well as a felt that has silicone in it. and just super smooth action. And then just a quarter of a turn is all it takes to completely lock this. It doesn't twist like I've experienced on my K-Tek poles. On the K-Tek poles, I feel like I have to really work to get the locks to lock so that the pole doesn't twist. And so I often operate with it like this. And I still do that with the ambient pole as well. But it's quite a bit of work to get it locked down. See, I can twist it right here. I have to really kind of get my elbow into it before it locks well enough. And that's a really nice feature on the quick pole here. These new locks are just fantastic, really. And if you're filming a self-funded independent film, obviously, are you going to care? No. Are you going to go out and buy a painter pole at your local hardware store for a boom pole? Maybe. But if you're a professional working on a large budget production, you're earning your living as a boom operator, these kind of nuances make a huge difference, and it's absolutely worth the additional cost. So really, really like those new locks. They also have, one thing you'll notice here on the Pro level gear is that the tips are all black. That's also true of the K-Tek poles. It used to be that Ambient would put a kind of a silver or a chrome colored tip. One of the pieces of feedback from SoundSpeed specifically to Ambient was make it black. And the reason for that is that when you're on set, the gaffer and the director of photography have put an enormous amount of work into getting their lighting design just right. And if you have something that's kind of silver in color, you can be reflecting light and creating weird stuff that the DP doesn't want. So having this black tip solves that problem. So just those kind of really thoughtful things are important when it comes to working at the highest levels of the production world. Now, the interesting thing is this is a mechanical device. You have locks, and there's some smooth action there, but over time that will wear. And one of the really cool things about Ambient poles is that they do sell maintenance kits. So there are some parts within the locks that will wear over time, including that felt. And you can actually buy a kit to replace those internal parts and make your boom pole like new after years of use. So another kind of thing that you don't see on the lower end poles from Rode or from Deity or from other manufacturers like that. And certainly not on the painter's poles at the hardware store. Another thing that I really like about this that I didn't have on my K-Tek poles is this incredibly beefy, lightweight, but beefy rubber bottom, rubber foot. So I can rest it on the ground between takes. On my K-Tek poles, this one here is an internally cabled pole and has a side XLR exit, but this is basically a metal piece here, I think with a plastic end cap. I always felt like I had to be really, really delicate and gentle with it when setting it on the ground between takes. And then this other smaller pole, also a K-Tek Avalon, same graphite material, much smaller pole for travel, if I have to like stick it in a carry-on bag or something, has a bottom XLR output, so you couldn't ever place this on the ground. This one is actually what I used more for putting on statically booming on a C-stand, so I didn't usually hand boom that one. But that's the difference here, is this foot is incredible. It's nice and soft. So that's just a quick look at why professionals that are booming all day long, mic booming, look at these kind of products at this price point with this kind of nuance in their design. I hope that was helpful for you, satisfied some curiosities. In the meantime, get out there, make some great sound, and we will talk to you again very soon.